Finish it Friday, I'm stitching it my way. Just wanna be sitting with needles and knitting. Hello, hello. Yes, I am recording this video for Finish It Friday. Yay, right? We made it through the end of another week. So say hello in the comment section. Let me know what your latest FO is, your finished object. But you know what? Sometimes maybe it's not even a craft. Maybe it was like, you hemmed your pants. Maybe you finished writing a book. Maybe it's just a presentation at work, right? A work project that you got done. Yeah, it's totally okay sometimes to be like, didn't have much time for crafting this week, because sometimes life happens, right? Well, anyways, and sometimes our finished objects don't always turn out the way we planned. That's what I have going on. Sometimes life doesn't turn out the way we planned. Sometimes we just finish the week and be like, whew, I'm just glad I'm here to complain about it, right? So, anyways, my finished objects are two little baby projects. We got a crocheted project. We got a knit project, and they are worked up in, let's see, I don't even know if I still, they are worked up in the knitpicks, and we crochet wool of the Andes, super wash worsted, in the color Wonderland Heather, which I think it's a pretty color. I'm not totally sure about it. If you're a returning viewer, you know why, right? And thanks for your patience while I explain that to anybody who might be new to my channel. Hi, my name's May. I love yarn. I love to knit and crochet. Those are my hobbies. And I also happen to have been born visually impaired, legally blind, completely colorblind. So sometimes I don't get the color right. So my understanding, though, why I do shop at Knitpicks and We Crochet is because they have great color descriptions of their yarn for people who are colorblind. So Wonderland Heather is supposed to be like a blue, green, teal kind of color. I honestly couldn't tell you if it's more blue or more green, but I think it's a real pretty color. So, and it's a 100% superwash Highland wool. All right, it's worsted. Anyway, so I did knit and crochet with it this week specifically for another video that you'll see coming up here real soon. But let's start with the finished objects. That's the focus of the video. Focus, May, focus, right? Okay, so this is a little crochet baby hat. I made this with a free YouTube tutorial by Amanda Crochets. It starts out with a really simple just your standard beanie, right, with your double crochets and then making your increases in the circle. Now, why I chose to do this one is because if you're a returning viewer, you know, right, I've been knitting for like 16 years, crocheting for about a year now. And I still have a lot to learn when it comes to crochet. And one of the things I love to do with my knitting is do ribbing. I love to put ribbing on my knitting, right? Like, let's see. Well, this is my cardi, but we can look at that. This is my own cardi that I designed. It's a top-down raglan cardi, and I got ribbon on the cuffs, right? Knit 2, purl 2, ribbing on the cuffs, knit 2, purl 2, ribbing on it. And I love to put that in my knit projects. And so I'm trying to learn how, the different styles of how to do ribbing with crochet. And so last week's finished object was this tank top that I designed in the Premier Yarn Dottie, and I started it out by learning how to do this crochet ribbing where you single crochet in the back loop, but that's how you start your project. And I'm super happy that I learned that technique to start a project. But I'm like, okay, so what if it's a project like a top-down hat where you want to put the ribbing on the bottom? And I didn't have a clue how to do that. So that's where I found this Amanda Crochets hat. is this is work top down and you put the ribbing on the bottom. So I love that. So if you're looking for a tutorial, if you're looking for somebody to explain to you how you do that, I think this is a good tutorial. I do. That's why I'm sharing it, even though I don't think mine turned out right. Okay, I'm just going to be real with you. I think that her ribbing is smaller and pulls it in more. I think mine has more like a floppy bucket hat look to it, or like a sun hat. And I don't necessarily think mine's wrong. I get the feeling mine is not totally correct. But I do think I figured out where I went wrong. It's okay. Like, I might remake this project at some point, because I'm all about, like, when I think my projects don't turn out right, I'm all about trying to sort of like deconstruct my process, learn, and figure out what went wrong, right? We got to learn. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to give both of my finished objects today are not perfect. And some people would say, you shouldn't put those on the internet, right? They're not perfect, and they're not. But if I waited to only have perfect objects, I'd probably never have anything on the internet, okay? So, basically, you do your project, and then where you want to start your ribbing, it's the same pretty much as this little tank top that I did, where you chain out 5, and then you get to the end and you go back along your chain and you single crochet, and then after that you turn and you slip stitch into 2 stitches. And then that's when you start your single crochet in the back loop. You do your 5 stitches on this particular hat. You do 5 stitches. You get to the end, to the outer edge, and then you chain 1 more, and then you go back along the piece that you just worked, and you single crochet in the back loop of those 5. You get to your brim, and you slip stitch twice. I think what I did with my slip stitches is I think I slip stitched into the stitch that I just worked where my chain is coming out of, and I don't think you're supposed to do that. I think you're supposed to slip stitch into the next 2 stitches. So I think I ended up with more ribs than she did, because I can't see what's happening on the video. I'm just listening. So, and I knit and crochet by feel, and so I think when I was feeling my work, I was feeling probably the chain that I just worked out of and slip stitched into that, and then the next one over. That's my guess on when I look at my project and I deconstruct it and I say, May, what went wrong with your project, right? We gotta learn, right? It's like if you play sports or something and you didn't win, right? And you didn't win the race, you gotta go back and you gotta like analyze it, and you gotta be like, what went wrong, right? What can we do better next time? Like if you didn't get the job at the job interview, perfectly okay to reflect back on your interview and be like, okay, maybe I didn't answer that question in the best way, right? So that's kind of what I'm doing with both of my projects today. So I think that's what I did wrong probably, is that I think you're supposed to not slip stitch into the chain that you just came from, but into the next 2, and then you won't have as many ribs as me, and then you won't have this little pretty wide floppy brim. But of course, if you want the wide floppy brim, right, then I think you could do it the way that I did it, right? So Mr. Bear can wear it, and he's got like a nice little floppy hat there going on, right, Mr. Bear, right? So hot where we're at. Mr. Bear's naked right now, okay, just saying. Anyways, so there is that. I will try my very best to link that up in the description box so that if you want to try to make it and you want to get it right, you can find it. Okay, so our next finished object is called Baby Sophisticate, and we can find the pattern by Linden Down. It's cute, even though I didn't do it correctly. It's cute, okay? It's cute. It is. I did not put buttons on it. I'm still considering an FO, a finished object, because I almost omitted the buttonholes completely. I've really got mixed feelings on including buttonholes and buttons on baby projects. Like I discussed in my V-neck baby cardi, you know, buttons are a choking hazard for babies. So, you know, if I do put buttons on a baby project and give it to somebody, or if you do, make sure those babies are never left alone to sleep unattended in anything with a button that they might be able to pull off. So I decided not to put buttons on this for now for a couple of reasons. One, if I do give it to somebody, I'd probably want to leave them the option and say, hey, you know, you want me to put buttons on it? I'll be happy to sew buttons on it. Or I might sew the buttons on and tell them to clip them off too if they don't want them. But I also don't know if I'll gift this sweater to somebody or not, because it's not perfect. It's not. I might just like, you know, it might just be like a learning piece for me, and that's why I chose it. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so where do we find Baby Sophisticate? We find Baby Sophisticate on Ravelry. There you go, right? Let's see. Okay. It's called Baby Sophisticate.
Linden Down.
Linden Down.
Baby Sophisticate.
Baby Sophisticate. Linden Down on Ravelry. Now here's the thing about this pattern. I worked with the free version. She does have a paid for version that's been updated. The paid for version is $7, and then she also has an adult version that's also $7, and I really do like it. I think it's cute. I think if you don't have experience working top down raglan style sweaters, I definitely get the paid for version. I think if you have some experience, you can work with the free for version. But even I chose to do this particular pattern because there's two skills that I talk about on my channel that I'm not very good at, right? I'm not very good at pick up and knit, right? I'm not good at pick up and knit, and I'm also not very good at short rows, right? Two techniques that I've said it many times on my channel. May's not good at pick up and knit, and May's not good at short rows. So I chose this particular project because it had both. It had both pick up and knit, and it had short rows, and it's a baby project. And I'm going to tell you a secret. When I'm trying to learn a skill or practice a skill, I sometimes just make baby projects because they're on a much smaller scale. And if you make a mistake, it's only a few days work that you gotta rip out, right? If I'd made this in my size, well, that might be a couple weeks worth of work that I could have messed up. And so that's one of my little secrets. I'm like, if I'm learning something, if I'm practicing something, I want to do it on a much, much smaller scale, okay? Now, I may very well purchase the adult version of this at some point. I don't know if I will, but I do think overall that little shawl collar is really cute. That's what I wanted to learn too, was I really wanted to learn how to do these little shawl collars. One thing I'm going to say this as a top-down raglan, if you've done top-down seamless raglans before, you know most people will cast on additional stitches in the underarm and the armpit area just to give a little bit more room, and she did not do that at all in the free version. Now it does say in the notes that there's some construction sort of technique updates as well as more sizes. In the free version there's 2 size options. In the paid for version of the child size there's like 10 options, and then there's, you know, several sizes in the adult version as well. So because I've designed my own Mr. Bear sweater and my sweater I've designed in top down before, right? Like here's Mr. Bear's sweater, I designed his top down raglan. Most of us add in a few stitches in the armpit just to give a little bit more room. She did not do that in the free version. She only had 26 stitches on the arm. With no added stitches. I went ahead in and added like 10 more stitches, so I ended up with 36 stitches. That's probably too big for a baby sweater. So the arms are nice and roomy, which I don't mind. I don't think babies need to have super tight arms in their sweater. I think it's easier to get their little flailing little arms in there, right? So I went ahead and added like 10 more stitches in my underarm. in addition to hers, just to make sure that it wasn't too tight, that it wasn't too snug in there on your little arms. So that's just the modification that I made. So then when it came to doing the collar, right, I showed that this particular pattern I just used in a demo this week. We did a little demo on talking about how to do garter stitch, and I showed people how to do the garter stitch on the bottom band, right, and on the sleeves. And one thing that I do to also talk about in a number of my videos that I talk about is that I really bind off tightly. That's a real issue for me. I bind off tightly, so I go up a couple of needle sizes. So this whole sweater was worked on a US size 8 or a 5mm needle. When I went and did my bind off on this, I went ahead and jumped up my needle size to a US size 10 or a 6mm. I wanted a lot of stretch again in those cuffs because babies can be difficult to dress, right? They're wiggling around, they're squirming, they're little, flailing around with their little fists. And so I don't, some people might think I made it too roomy in the cuff, right? Because some people might want it tight to keep it warm. I really, I wanted to make sure it wasn't too tight. I worry about making baby stuff too tight where it's uncomfortable because they can't tell us, right? I'm like, if I got my sweater too tight, I can be like, ooh, that's too tight. But babies can't really tell us that their sweater's too tight and it's uncomfortable. And so I just like to try to, maybe I make them too loose, but I just really like to give them a lot of room in those bind offs. So I did the same thing for the bind off on the bottom. I used a number 10, not a number 10, yeah, and the US number 10 6mm needle for my bind offs. Okay, so we do this pick up in knit to do this whole button band and the shawl collar, and then we work the whole thing in garter stitch. I've said it before, I'm not good at pick up and knit. I'm not sure what exactly I did wrong on my pick up and knit, but as usual it's a little sloppy. Usually when I do pick up and knit, it's either that I pick up too many stitches and it ends up bunchy, right? Or I don't pick up enough, like in this one, and it ends up a little bit gappy. So that's my best guess on that, is that maybe I missed a few of the stitches. She does have us work the edge stitches in a slip stitch, and then you just pick up each slip stitch. So they were easier to feel. But I pick up and knit is something that, you got to find each stitch by feel. I did on a few, I don't know, maybe like a month, maybe it's been 2 months, I don't remember, but we did do a Finish It Friday with a V-neck baby cardi and the the Premier Dottie yarn, and that was a free pattern off the Premier site. And I also did a pick up and knit band all the way around on that. But that was worked in a Knit One Purl one. And that one, I did a much, much better job on that particular pattern than I did on this one. I'll be honest with you. That one, I really was pleased with how well I did the pick up and knit, how well I spaced it out. This one, I'm not super pleased with myself, but that's why I say I'm not very good at it yet. It's a struggle for me to feel exactly where to get my needle in. Yeah. I'd love to hear from other people. Have you worked this pattern or not? And what are your thoughts? Have you worked the free version? Do you have the paid for version? Is it worth it? Does it have improvements in it? I also struggle with the short rows. My short rows are not perfect at all in this one. Some people say when you do short rows in garter stitch, you don't even have to pick up your wraps because of the nature of garter stitch. But her pattern does say to pick up the wraps. Mine, I did pick up the wraps, and they still, in my opinion, ended up a little bit holier than I wanted. Yeah, what I probably, because I know I struggle with wrap and turn short rows. But I have not had any better success with German short rows. I've swatched out both before numerous times. I have yet to be successful with German short rows. Even in swatches, I've swatched German short rows over and over and over, and they always end up with holes in them. So let me know, what are your favorite short row techniques. Do you like wrap and turn short rows? Do you like German short rows? Do you like shadow wrap short rows? Do you like Japanese short rows? You know, because I struggle. I have worked short rows successfully before in at least 3 different projects. But you know, usually it takes multiple attempts. Like usually, you know, when I've done short row socks, usually I mess them up and have to rip them out and restart them like 3 times for reals. So it happens to me. It does. I have made a pair of pants successfully with short rows on the back side. But I think that I also had to rip out at least once and rework. And usually I end up swatching it out first to make sure that I have found a method of short rows that works for me, that works with the stitch pattern. And that's probably what I should have done with this particular sweater, is swatched out short rows in garter stitch first. Yeah, I probably should have watched a few more videos on that. So I'm not super pleased with my project as a whole, but I did learn a lot, and I have reminded myself, swatch out your short rows. So of course I did after the fact. This is a short row swatch that I just did today. This is in stockinette though, as opposed to garter stitch. I like my swatch here a lot better. I really don't have big gaps. I don't have big holes. This is just some scrap yarn. That's what I need to do more often. I don't even know what this ball is left over from. I have no clue. I had to ask Gemini AI on Google what color it is. I had no clue what color. Not that it matters, right? It's our practice swatch. It don't matter. But I was trying to remember what this was left over from. I don't remember. I think the Gemini AI said this was lilac. So I'm guessing it was a baby blanket, right? That's my best guess. It's a baby blanket that I made years ago, gifted to somebody, don't even remember. So this particular short row swatch in stockinette, I like a lot better. I'm definitely still, this is wrap and turn short rows. I'm definitely still working on it, definitely still perfecting it, like it a lot better. In this practice swatch, I did not do it the way that she does it in the baby sophisticate, okay, in those instructions. So if you struggle with short rows, you may or may not want to do them the way that she wrote them out in the pattern, because mine ended up pretty gappy the way that I followed her instructions. And so this swatch was made. These are still wrap and turn short rows, but I definitely did them differently than her instructions. So my best recommendation to you would be to swatch it out ahead of time. You know, make sure that you have a method of doing your short rows in garter. Unless if you're really good at short rows, then you don't need to do it, right? If you've already got short rows figured out, then hey, you go for it. But for somebody who still struggles with them, right? Who probably, I just need to practice them. I just need to be like, do them, just do them, right? Practice your short rows. Swatch it out over and over. So, but I really do like this swatch. I think this is probably one of my best short row swatches in a long time. So I think I have found something that's going to work for me in this swatch. If I remember to do it this way, what I've done here, I think I'm going to be able to do it. So I don't know that I'm going to do this sweater again anytime soon, but it's good to know that I found an alternative to the pattern instructions that I can probably do with garter stitch. And it's good that I started practicing with short rows again, because I really want to start incorporating short rows. If you're a returning viewer to my channel, you know that I love to design my own patterns. I love to design my own projects, and I really haven't incorporated short rows in any of my designs, right? And I do suggest to people, I say, if you need more room in your project, such as in the bust, you know, incorporate some short rows. But I don't, you know, I'm still working on finding the best technique for me. So I don't really teach short rows on my channel yet until I'm not going to until I really find a way that I feel is going to work for me best. So I'm definitely still learning that, but I'd love to be able to incorporate short rows on my projects. I do want to design my own cardi that has a similar type collar with short rows in it. I like that look a lot. So I know I also want to design a pair of pants with short rows in it. I got some ideas up in my head, right? Some shorts too. I also want to make some shorts with short rows in it. So it's definitely something. I don't know that I'm going to do those this year. I don't know, because I got so many other projects designed in my head, and I can't, I can't sketch, can't get them all out of my head and off my fingers fast enough. So I don't know if I'm going to get to all of those, if or when, but I definitely have to tell myself, like, slow down, even though I feel like I'm in such a hurry, right, to knit and crochet, to get everything out of my head. I'm feeling like I do have to do things like work other people's patterns sometimes, and really take the time to slow down and really find, the best ways for me to learn some of these more advanced techniques so that I can incorporate them into my own designs. So I'm really happy that I took on these projects, because I learned new construction techniques, and those are definitely my goals for this year, is to increase sort of my repertoire of construction techniques so that I can incorporate them into my own designs. So neither one of my FOs are perfect this week. They're both flawed. Oftentimes when I do baby gifts for, or baby items to sort of learn things on, they do turn out good enough to give away. I don't know if I'd ever gift either one of these, because they're not perfect, right? They're not. But they were definitely worth it, because they were learning opportunities for me, and I'm all about that, right? We can make mistakes, we just need to learn. So alrighty, well, let me know your thoughts, right? Because maybe that was your week for you too. Maybe you're like, it's done, it ain't perfect, but it's done, right? Maybe I turned in my latest draft to my editor. I know it's not perfect, but the draft is turned in, right? So whatever it is that you got done this week, right? If you're here to talk about it, sometimes you just gotta take that as a win. So let me know, right? What's your weekend plans, right? How are you gonna wrap up your summer? Let me know. Let me know what you're working on. Let me know if you're just like doing chores, if you're visiting family, if you're just cleaning, if you're going on a beach trip, what you doing for the weekend. And of course, let me know what your FO is. Let me know if you're traveling, or you're bringing a craft with you. Are you planning on just hanging out and doing some stitching for the weekend? Alrighty, my friends. Well, you know what I like to end with. Creativity is for everybody, right? Whether you see, or you see like me, or you don't see at all, creativity is for you. And whether it's knitting or crocheting or sewing or quilting or beading or sculpting or painting or whatever it is that you do, today is a great day to craft and create. Thanks so much for listening, and until next time, happy stitching. Bye bye for now. Have a great weekend.